Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the stars through the main window. The ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now. Their mission was simple: explore new worlds and look for signs of life. Jake had done this kind of work for 10 years, but he never got tired of seeing new places. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings," said Dr. Lisa Grant from her station. She was the ship's expert on alien life. Her job was to study any new creatures or plants they might find. "There's something big out there, maybe 20 kilometers away." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The readings showed a massive object moving toward them. It was much bigger than their ship. "Ryan, can you tell what it is?" he asked. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks worked at the Weapons and Defense Station. He had been a soldier before joining the exploration team. His fingers moved quickly over his controls. "It's a ship, Captain. Bigger than anything I've ever seen. The design is totally unknown." Chief Engineer Maya Patel looked up from her workstation. She kept all the ship's systems running smoothly. "Captain, that ship is scanning us. Their technology is very advanced, much more advanced than ours." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was it. First contact with an alien race. He had dreamed of this moment his whole life. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "Let's try to talk to them." The main screen flickered and then showed something that made everyone on the bridge freeze. The alien was tall, maybe 8 feet, with green, scaly skin and yellow eyes that seemed to glow. Its face was long like a lizard with sharp teeth showing when it spoke. "I am War Commander Thexel of the Zephyrian Empire," the alien said. Its voice was deep and harsh. "You will surrender your vessel immediately. Resistance will result in your death." Jake took a deep breath. This was not how he had imagined first contact would go. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration ship New Horizon. We come in peace. We want to learn about your people and share knowledge." The alien tilted its head, like a predator studying prey. "Human? We have not heard of this species. You appear weak. Your ship is small and poorly armed. Why do you not fear us?" "We don't want to fight," Jake said calmly. "We're explorers, not warriors. Surely we can find a way to work together." Thexal made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was cold and scary. "Work together? You misunderstand. Human. The Zephyrians are the apex predators of this galaxy. We have conquered 847 star systems. We do not work with prey. We hunt it." Dr. Grant stepped forward. "Captain, perhaps we can interest them in scientific exchange. Our cultures could learn from each other." The aliens, eyes focused on her with interest. "This one speaks of learning. Tell me, small prey, what could you possibly teach the Zephyrians? We have destroyed civilizations that were older and stronger than yours appears to be." Jake could see his crew getting nervous. Maya's hands were shaking slightly as she worked. Ryan had quietly moved closer to the weapons controls. But Jake knew they had to try diplomacy first. "We may be different from the species you've met before," Jake said. "Humans have survived on a dangerous planet for thousands of years. We've learned to work together, to solve problems, to adapt to any situation. Maybe those skills could be useful to your people too." Thexal's expression changed. For a moment, something like curiosity flickered in those yellow eyes. "Adapt? Interesting. Show me how weak humans adapt when faced with superior predators." The communication cut off. Immediately, alarms started ringing throughout the New Horizon. Ryan's voice was urgent. "Captain, they're powering weapons. Multiple small ships are launching from the main vessel." "Shields up," Jake ordered. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers." But it was too late. The Zephyrian attack was swift and precise. Their weapons tore through the New Horizon shields like they were made of paper. The ship shook violently as explosions rocked the hull. "Hull breach on Deck 3, Maya reported. "Life support is failing in sections 4 through 7. "They're not trying to destroy us," Ryan said, studying his readings. "They're trying to disable us. I think they want to board." Jake realized what was happening. The Zephyrians were hunters, and they wanted to take their prey alive. All crew, Prepare for boarding action. This is not a drill. The next few minutes were chaos. Zephyrian soldiers teleported directly onto the ship. They were even more frightening in person. Tall, fast, and deadly. Their weapons were advanced. Their armor was thick and they moved like natural killers. But something unexpected happened. The humans didn't behave like prey. Instead of running or surrendering, they fought back. Ryan grabbed a plasma cutter from the engineering kit and used it as a weapon. Maya rigged the ship's internal systems to create traps and barriers. Dr. Grant used her knowledge of biology to target weak points in the alien armor. Jake found himself face-to-face with a Zephyrian warrior in the corridor. The alien was twice, his size and armed with weapons that could cut through steel. But Jake had something the alien didn't expect: desperation and cleverness. He grabbed a fire extinguisher and sprayed it in the alien's face, then used the zero-gravity environment to push off the walls and attack from an unexpected angle. The Zephyrian, used to hunting prey that ran away, was confused by this strange tactic. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out. The humans used tools as weapons, turned their own ship into a maze of traps, and fought with a combination of intelligence and fury that the Zephyrians had never encountered. The boarding party retreated, but not before several of their warriors were killed or wounded. As their ships pulled back, Jake could see the confusion on Thexal's face on the communication screen. "This is impossible," the alien commander said. "Prey does not fight like this. Prey does not kill predators." "Maybe you need to rethink what you know about humans?" Jake replied, breathing hard from the fight. The Zephyrian ships disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the damaged New Horizon floating in space. The crew worked frantically to repair their ship and get back to Earth. None of them knew that this encounter had just changed the course of galactic history. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center on Earth, reading the report from the New Horizon for the third time. The damaged exploration ship had made it back to Earth after 2 weeks of emergency repairs. Captain Morrison and his crew were alive, but their story was hard to believe. "So you're telling me," Admiral Sullivan said to the assembled officers, "that we just made contact with a species that has conquered almost 1,000 star systems, and they want to hunt us for sport?" Dr. Alex Turner, the military's top strategist, nodded grimly. "That's exactly what it means, Admiral. The Zephyrians see us as new prey. According to Captain Morrison's report, they were shocked that we fought back at all." Colonel Brad Mitchell, who commanded Earth's Special Forces, leaned forward in his chair. "Admiral, with respect, we need to prepare for war. These aliens aren't going to leave us alone just because we asked nicely." Admiral Sullivan looked at the data on her screen. Earth had 12 battleships, 30 cruisers, and about 100 smaller vessels. It seemed like a lot until you compared it to an empire that controlled nearly 1,000 worlds. "What do we know about their technology?" she asked. "Their ships are faster and more powerful than ours," Dr. Turner replied. "Their weapons can cut through our best armor. Their soldiers are physically superior to humans in every way. Stronger, faster, better reflexes. So how do we fight them?" Colonel Mitchell asked. Admiral Sullivan was quiet for a long moment. She had been a military officer for 25 years, and she had learned that you don't always win by being stronger. Sometimes you win by being smarter. "We don't fight them the way they expect," she said finally. "They're predators. They're used to hunting prey that runs away or surrenders. We're going to give them something they've never seen before." 3 days later, Zephyrian ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. War Commander Thexal had been promoted after his encounter with the humans. Supreme Predator Vextar had been impressed that the humans had actually fought back, making them worthy prey for the Crimson Fleet. War Alpha Crixmore commanded the Crimson Fleet from his flagship, the Deathstalker. The Crimson Fleet was the elite hunting force of the Zephyrian Empire. They were sent only after the most dangerous prey. "Scan the system," Crixmore ordered. "Find their military installations. We will destroy their defenses first, then begin the hunt." His tactical officer, a younger Zephyrian named Vexka, studied the readings. "War Alpha, the humans have positioned their ships in a strange formation. They are not protecting their homeworld directly. Instead, they are scattered throughout the system." Crixmore was puzzled. In his 300 years of hunting, he had never seen prey deploy this way. Usually, species grouped their ships together to make a strong defense around their most important worlds. Perhaps they are cowards, suggested another officer. They are running before we even attack. But Crixmore was not convinced. He remembered Thexal's report about how the humans had fought on the exploration ship. No, these humans are different. Order the fleet to advance, but stay alert for tricks. Admiral Sullivan watched the alien ships on her command screen. They were moving in a tight formation like a pack of hunters. Perfect. All ships, execute Alpha Strike, she ordered. What happened next shocked the Zephyrians. The scattered human ships suddenly changed course, moving at maximum speed toward the alien fleet. But instead of engaging in normal space combat, they did something unthinkable. The first human ship, a cruiser called the Boston, accelerated directly toward the largest Zephyrian vessel. Its captain, Commander Nick Davis, had volunteered for this mission knowing he would not survive. "This is for Earth," Davis said over the radio as his ship smashed into the Zephyrian cruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded in a massive fireball. The Zephyrians were stunned. In all their years of hunting, they had never seen prey deliberately destroy itself to hurt predators. "Impossible," Crixmore whispered. "Prey does not do this." But the humans were just getting started. More human ships began ramming attacks. Others used asteroids and space debris as weapons, pushing them toward the Zephyrian fleet. Some human vessels pretended to retreat, then turned around and attacked when the aliens followed. Colonel Mitchell led a team of fighters in small, fast ships. They moved in ways that confused the Zephyrians, who were used to hunting prey that tried to escape. Instead, the human fighters swarmed around the larger alien ships like angry bees. "They fight like insects," one Zephyrian officer reported. "No honor, no proper combat formation. They use everything as a weapon." The battle lasted for 6 hours. When it was over, the Zephyrians had won in terms of ships destroyed. They had lost 8 vessels while the humans had lost 23. But the aliens were horrified by what they had experienced. "War, Alpha," Bexka reported. "We have won the battle, but I do not understand these humans. They showed no fear. They used tactics that no civilized species would use. They rammed our ships with their own, knowing they would die." Crixmore stared at the wreckage floating in space. In every other hunt, destroying the prey's military would have ended the conflict. The surviving prey would surrender and accept their fate. But somehow, he knew the humans would not surrender. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human homeworld." Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the screen. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were hard as steel. "I am Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Earth Defense Force," she said. "You have attacked our ships and killed our people. You call yourselves hunters, but you're nothing but bullies who pick on species weaker than yourselves." Crixmore leaned forward. "You have lost this battle, human. Your ships are destroyed. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Admiral Sullivan smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. "You don't understand us at all, do you? We humans have a saying, if you want to hunt monsters, you have to become a monster yourself. You wanted to hunt us? Fine, but now we're going to hunt you back." The transmission ended. Crixmore stared at the blank screen, feeling something he had never experienced before in his long career as a predator. For the first time in his life, he felt a small whisper of fear. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "We advance on their homeworld." But as the Crimson Fleet moved deeper into the solar system, Crixmore could not shake the feeling that the humans were not beaten. They had fought like no prey species he had ever encountered. They had used tactics that seemed insane, but had been strangely effective. And that smile on the human admiral's face, it was not the expression of defeated prey. It was the smile of a predator who had just begun to hunt. On Earth, Admiral Sullivan was already planning the next phase of the war. The Zephyrians had won the first battle, but they had also revealed their tactics and technology. Now the real fight would begin. "Colonel Mitchell," she said, "I want you to prepare teams for boarding actions. We're going to take this fight to their ships." "Yes, Admiral." What are our rules of engagement? Admiral Sullivan's expression was grim. There are no rules, Colonel. We're not fighting a civilized war. We're fighting for the survival of our species. Use whatever tactics work. The hunt had begun, but the Zephyrians were about to learn that sometimes the prey becomes the predator. War Alpha Crixmore stood in his private chamber aboard the Deathstalker, staring at the battle reports. 3 months had passed since the first encounter with humans, and nothing was going as planned. The Zephyrian Empire had fought thousands of species, but none had been like this. War Alpha. His aide Vexka entered the room nervously. Supreme Predator Vextar demands a status report. He wants to know why the human homeworld has not fallen yet. Crixmore's claws scraped against the metal table. Tell the Supreme Predator that these humans are different. Every time we attack, they adapt. Every time we develop new tactics, they find ways to counter them. It was true. The humans had not won a single major battle, but they refused to surrender. Instead, they kept changing their methods of fighting. When the Zephyrians attacked their military bases, the humans moved their operations underground. When the aliens tried to blockade their supply lines, the humans used small, fast ships that were hard to catch. Worst of all, the humans had started attacking Zephyrian civilian targets. No civilized species had ever done this before. The galaxy had rules about warfare, and one of the most important was that civilians were not to be harmed. The humans ignored these rules completely. On Earth, Dr. Carmen Rodriguez worked in her laboratory, studying pieces of Zephyrian technology that had been recovered from destroyed ships. She was the head of Earth's emergency research program, and her job was to find ways to fight back against superior alien technology. The key is their psychology, she explained to General Paul Carter, who commanded Earth's ground forces. The Zephyrians think like predators. They expect prey to run away or hide. When we attack their civilians, it confuses them completely. General Carter nodded. He was a tough soldier who had fought in many Earth wars before the aliens arrived. My intelligence teams report that some Zephyrian units are refusing orders. They don't want to fight us anymore. Dr. Rodriguez smiled grimly. That's because we're turning them from predators into prey. Every time they send a ship near our territory, we hunt it down. Every time they try to establish a base, we destroy it with suicide attacks. We're teaching them what it feels like to be afraid. Commander Nick Davis flew his experimental fighter through the asteroid belt near Mars. His ship was one of 12 new designs that Dr. Rodriguez had created specifically to fight Zephyrians. It was small, fast, and nearly impossible to detect. Ghost Squadron, this is Ghost Leader, he said into his radio. Target confirmed. 1 Zephyrian supply convoy, 3 escort ships. Remember, we hit hard and fast, then disappear. His pilots were volunteers from Earth's Air Force and Navy. They had all lost friends or family in the Zephyrian attacks, and they flew with a cold anger that scared even their own commanders. The attack was over in minutes. The human fighters appeared from behind asteroids, fired their weapons, and vanished again before the Zephyrians could respond. 2 escort ships were destroyed, and the supply convoy was left helpless. But instead of destroying the convoy, Commander Davis opened a communication channel to the surviving Zephyrians. This is the human pilot you failed to kill, he said. Tell your commanders that we are watching. Tell them that nowhere is safe. Tell them that the prey has become the hunter. The psychological effect on the Zephyrian crew was devastating. Warriors who had conquered entire worlds began to look over their shoulders, wondering when the humans would strike next. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Supreme Predator Vextar called a meeting of the War Council. The other leaders of the Empire gathered in the Great Hall, their scales gleaming under the harsh lights. The human campaign is taking too long, Vextar announced. Our losses are becoming unacceptable. 300 ships destroyed, 5,000 warriors dead, and we have not even reached their homeworld yet. War Commander Thexal, who had been promoted after surviving his first encounter with humans, spoke carefully. Supreme Predator, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The humans do not fight like any species we have encountered before. Are you suggesting we retreat from mere prey? Vextar's voice was dangerous. No, Supreme Predator. I am suggesting that these humans may not be prey at all. They fight with a savagery that rivals our own. They use tactics that we consider dishonorable, but which are terrifyingly effective. Another council member, War Beta Zektar, disagreed. The humans are weak individually. Their ships are inferior. Their technology is primitive. We simply need to adapt our hunting methods. But adaptation was exactly what the humans excelled at. On Earth, General Carter was planning his next operation. Intelligence reports showed that the Zephyrians were building a forward base on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. It was time to show them what human ground forces could do. "We're going to hit them where they don't expect it," he told his officers. "They think they understand human tactics now. They've adapted their space combat techniques to counter our ramming attacks and swarm tactics. But they've never faced human soldiers in ground combat." Lieutenant Eva Stone was one of General Carter's best officers. She specialized in infiltration and sabotage. "Sir, what are our rules of engagement?" General Carter's expression was hard. "The same as always, Lieutenant. There are no rules. We do whatever it takes to win." The attack on Europa was unlike anything the Zephyrians had experienced. Human soldiers moved through the base like ghosts, using the moon's low gravity and the base's own systems against the defenders. They poisoned the air supply, rigged explosions in unexpected places, and fought from the shadows. The Zephyrians were used to honorable combat between warriors. They were not prepared for humans who crawled through air vents, hid in storage compartments, and attacked from behind. Worst of all, the humans seemed to take pleasure in terrifying their enemies. "They are not warriors," one surviving Zephyrian reported to Crixmore. "They are demons. They laugh when they kill. They use our own fears against us." The base fell in 6 hours. More importantly, the humans captured several high-ranking Zephyrian officers alive. This was when the real psychological warfare began. Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's specialist in biological warfare, studied the captured aliens carefully. He discovered that Zephyrians had the same basic biology as Earth reptiles, which meant that many Earth diseases could be modified to affect them. "We don't need to kill them all," he explained to Admiral Sullivan. "We just need to make them afraid of us. Fear is more powerful than any weapon." Soon, rumors began spreading through the Zephyrian fleet, stories of human soldiers who could not be killed, of diseases that turned Zephyrian warriors into helpless victims, of entire crews found dead with no explanation. Most of these stories were false, but some were true. The humans made sure that just enough real incidents occurred to keep the fear alive. War Alpha Kriegsmoor found himself dealing with something he had never encountered in 3 centuries of hunting: mutiny. Some of his officers were refusing to attack human targets. Others were requesting transfers to different sectors of the galaxy. "War Alpha," Vexka reported nervously. "The crew is asking when we will return home. They say the humans are cursed, that fighting them brings only death." Kriegsmoor wanted to punish such cowardly talk, but he could not deny the truth. The humans were unlike any prey species the Zephyrians had ever encountered. They adapted faster than their enemies could counter them. They used tactics that no civilized species would consider. They fought with a desperate fury that turned every battle into a nightmare. Worst of all, they were learning. Every captured Zephyrian ship yielded new technology that the humans somehow managed to copy and improve. Every battle taught them more about Zephyrian weaknesses. The prey had indeed become predators, and the greatest hunters in the galaxy were discovering what it felt like to be hunted. On Earth, Admiral Sullivan looked at the latest reports with satisfaction. The war was far from over, but the tide was turning. The Zephyrians were still stronger individually, but humans were proving that intelligence, adaptability, and sheer determination could overcome almost any advantage. "Prepare for the next phase," she ordered. "It's time to take this war to their territory." Captain Troy Henderson moved silently through the corridors of the Zephyrian battleship. His stealth suit made him nearly invisible, and his boots made no sound on the metal floor. Behind him, 3 other human soldiers followed like shadows. The Ghostwalker had been Admiral Sullivan's secret project for 8 months. It was the most advanced stealth ship humans had ever built, designed with one purpose: to hunt Zephyrian commanders and make them disappear. "Target is in the command center," whispered Lieutenant Eva Stone through her helmet radio. She was the team's infiltration expert, and she had studied Zephyrian ship layouts for months. "2 guards outside, maybe 6 more inside." Captain Henderson nodded. Operation Nightmare had been running for 3 weeks now, and it was working, better than anyone had hoped. Zephyrian officers were starting to look over their shoulders. Some were even requesting transfers to safer sectors of the galaxy. The 2 guards outside the command center never saw the humans coming. One moment they were standing at their posts, the next they were unconscious on the floor. The human soldiers moved like ghosts, leaving no trace of their presence except for the growing fear in their enemies' hearts. Inside the command center, War Commander Bextal was studying star charts when the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red light. "What happened?" he demanded. "Unknown, War Commander," his aide replied nervously. "All systems show normal function." That was when Bextal noticed that 2 of his officers were missing. They had been standing near the communication station just moments before. Now their posts were empty. "Sound the alarm," he ordered, but his voice was shaking. "Search the ship." The search found nothing. No signs of struggle, no evidence of intruders, no trace of the missing officers. It was as if they had simply vanished into empty space. 3 hours later, the Zephyrian crew found a message written on the wall of the War Commander's private quarters. "The humans are coming. Run." Bextal stared at the words, his hands trembling. How had the humans gotten into his personal quarters? How had they moved through his ship without being detected? And where were his missing officers? On the Ghostwalker, Captain Henderson watched the Zephyrian battleship through his ship's sensors. The alien vessel was changing course, moving away from human space as fast as possible. "Another successful hunt," he reported to Admiral Sullivan. "The Zephyrians are retreating from Sector 7. Admiral Sullivan smiled grimly. "Excellent work, Captain. How many ships have fled from your sector this month?" 15, Admiral. Word is spreading through their fleet. They're calling human space the Dark Zone now. Many Zephyrian commanders are refusing to enter it." This was exactly what Admiral Sullivan had hoped for. The Zephyrians were physically superior to humans, but they had one critical weakness. They had never been prey before. They didn't know how to handle fear. Dr. Marcus Webb was working in his laboratory when he received the latest batch of Zephyrian prisoners. These aliens had been captured during a raid on one of their supply bases, and they looked different from the proud warriors humans had first encountered. These Zephyrians were nervous, jumping at every sound. Their eyes constantly moved, watching for threats. Some of them were even showing signs of what humans would call post-traumatic stress. "Fascinating," Dr. Webb murmured as he studied the medical reports. "Their entire psychological profile is changing. They're developing anxiety disorders, paranoia, and depression. The predator species is learning what it feels like to be hunted." He had been working on a special project for months now. Using captured Zephyrian biology data, he had developed a series of biological agents that could affect their nervous systems, not to kill them, but to make them more afraid, more paranoid, more likely to make mistakes. Dr. Webb, his assistant, called out, "Admiral Sullivan wants to see you in the briefing room." The briefing room was full of Earth's top military leaders. Admiral Sullivan stood at the head of the table, with General Carter, Colonel Mitchell, and several other officers sitting around her. "Gentlemen," Admiral Sullivan began, "intelligence reports that the Zephyrian Empire is in crisis. Their military is suffering from mass desertions. Some of their client species are rebelling, and Supreme Predator Vextar has become obsessed with defeating humanity." Colonel Mitchell leaned forward. "Is that good or bad for us, Admiral?" "Both," Admiral Sullivan replied. "The good news is that the Zephyrian Empire is weakening. The bad news is that Vextar is gathering their most elite forces for one final assault on Earth. He's calling it the Great Hunt." Dr. Webb spoke up. "Admiral, my biological warfare program is ready. We can deploy fear-inducing agents throughout their fleet. It won't kill them, but it will make them terrified to fight us. Do it, Admiral Sullivan ordered, and prepare for the final phase of Operation Nightmare. It's time to bring this war to their home system. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Supreme Predator Vexitar stood before the great statue of the first hunter, the legendary founder of their empire. The statue showed a mighty Zephyrian warrior standing over the bodies of his enemies, triumphant and proud. Ancestors, Vexitar whispered, guide me in this hunt. These humans have proven to be worthy prey, but they must not be allowed to defeat us. But even as he spoke, Vexitar could feel doubt creeping into his mind. The reports from the war front were troubling. Entire fleets were retreating from human space. Officers were refusing orders. Some were even deserting their posts and fleeing to distant sectors of the galaxy. War Alpha Crixmore entered the chamber, his armor showing signs of recent battle. Supreme Predator, I have assembled the Crimson Fleet as ordered. But I must warn you, morale is at an all-time low. The warriors are afraid. Afraid? Vexitar's voice was filled with disgust. Zephyrians do not know fear. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. That was before we encountered the humans, Crixmore replied quietly. Supreme Predator, these creatures fight like demons. They use tactics that no civilized species would consider. They poison our food. They attack our medical facilities. They hunt our officers like animals. Vexitar turned to face his War Alpha. You sound like you admire them. I respect them, Crixmore admitted. They have turned the art of war into something new and terrible. They fight not just to win, but to break the spirit of their enemies. And they are succeeding. That night, Vexitar had nightmares for the first time in his life. He dreamed of human soldiers moving through his palace like shadows, of his own warriors fleeing in terror, of the proud Zephyrian empire crumbling into dust. He woke up sweating, his heart racing. For a moment he couldn't remember where he was. Then he realized the truth. He was afraid. The next morning brought worse news. 3 more Zephyrian colony worlds had declared independence from the Empire. The client species were rising in rebellion, sensing weakness in their masters. And most disturbing of all, there were reports of human ships deep in Zephyrian space, moving like ghosts through their most secure systems. How is this possible? Vexitar demanded of his intelligence officers. How are the humans moving through our territory without being detected? We don't know, Supreme Predator, the officer replied nervously. Our sensors show nothing, but our bases are still being attacked. Our supply lines are being cut. Our officers are disappearing. Vexitar realized that the humans had done something no other species had ever accomplished. They had made the Zephyrians afraid of the dark. The mighty predators who had conquered nearly 1,000 worlds were now jumping at shadows, seeing enemies everywhere. On Earth, Admiral Sullivan received the final report from Captain Henderson. The Ghostwalker had completed its mission in the Zephyrian home system, mapping their defenses and planting psychological warfare devices throughout their territory. The Zephyrians are ready to break, Henderson reported. Their entire command. Structures paralyzed by fear. They don't know where we'll strike next. Admiral Sullivan nodded. Then it's time for the final phase. Prepare the fleet for the assault on their homeworld. But remember, our goal isn't to destroy them completely. It's to make them understand that humans are not prey. The great hunt was about to begin, but this time, the humans would be the hunters. President Helen Parker stood at the window of her office looking out at the stars. 18 months had passed since first contact with the Zephyrians, and the galaxy would never be the same. Reports from across known space told the same story. The mighty Zephyrian Empire was falling apart. Madam President, her aide announced, Admiral Bailey is here for the final briefing. Admiral Chris Bailey entered the room, carrying a folder marked with the highest security classification. He was the commander chosen to lead humanity's final offensive against the Zephyrian homeworld. The fleet is ready, Madam President. He reported. 200 ships, including our new stealth vessels. The Zephyrians won't know we're coming until we're already there. President Parker turned from the window. Admiral, I want to be very clear about our objectives. We're not going there to commit genocide. We're going to end this war and establish humanity as a major power in the galaxy. Understood, Madam President. But what if they refuse to surrender? Before President Parker could answer, another aide entered the room. Madam President, Dr. Lee is requesting an emergency meeting. She says it's about the peace negotiations. Dr. Janet Lee had been working in secret for months trying to establish contact with moderate Zephyrian leaders who wanted the war to end. It was dangerous work, as many Zephyrians still saw humans as nothing more than clever prey. Send her in, President Parker ordered. Dr. Lee entered looking exhausted but hopeful. Madam President, I've been in contact with War Commander Thexol. He represents a faction of Zephyrian military leaders who want to negotiate a ceasefire. Admiral Bailey frowned. It could be a trap. The Zephyrians aren't known for their honesty. I don't think so, Dr. Lee replied. Thexol was the first Zephyrian to encounter humans. He understands what we're capable of better than most. He's convinced that continuing this war will destroy his entire species. President Parker sat down at her desk. The decision she made in the next few minutes would affect the future of both species. What are their terms? They want a complete withdrawal of human forces from Zephyrian space. In return, they promise to leave human territory alone and recognize Earth as an independent power. That's not enough, Admiral Bailey said immediately. After everything they've done, they can't just walk away and pretend nothing happened. President Parker agreed. Dr. Lee, tell Thexol that we'll consider negotiations, but only after Supreme Predator Vexitar surrenders personally. The Zephyrians need to understand that there are consequences for starting wars they can't finish. Meanwhile, in the Zephyrian home system, chaos ruled. Supreme Predator Vexitar had become increasingly unstable as the war turned against his people. He spent hours staring at tactical displays, searching for some way to defeat the humans. Supreme Predator, War Alpha Crixmore reported nervously. Our long-range sensors have detected a massive human fleet approaching. They'll be here within 6 hours. Vextar's eyes gleamed with desperate hope. Finally, the humans come to us for the final hunt. Prepare all defenses. This ends today. But Crixmore knew the truth. The Zephyrian home fleet was a shadow of its former strength. Too many ships had been lost, too many crews had deserted, and those who remained were terrified of fighting humans. Supreme Predator, he said carefully. Perhaps we should consider War Commander Thexol's suggestion. We could negotiate. Negotiate? Vextar's voice was filled with rage. We are Zephyrians. We do not negotiate with prey. But Supreme Predator, the humans are not prey. They have proven that beyond any doubt. They have turned us into the hunted. Vextar struck Crixmore across the face with his claws. You are weak. All of you are weak. I will show these humans what it means to face the apex predator of the galaxy. 6 hours later, the human fleet emerged from hyperspace. Admiral Bailey stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Earth's Pride, watching the Zephyrian homeworld grow larger on the main screen. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the Zephyrian fleet is moving to intercept us. 43 ships, but their formation is irregular. It looks like some of their crews are refusing to advance. Admiral Bailey nodded. The psychological warfare had worked better than anyone had hoped. The Zephyrian military was falling apart from within. Open a communication channel to their flagship, he ordered. Supreme Predator Vextar's image appeared on the screen. The once proud leader looked older, his scales dull, his eyes showing the strain of months of defeat and humiliation. I am Admiral Chris Bailey of the Earth Fleet, Admiral Bailey announced. I'm here to accept your surrender. Vexitar's laugh was bitter and harsh. Surrender? I am the Supreme Predator of the Zephyrian Empire. I do not surrender to prey. Then you'll die. With your empire, Admiral Bailey replied calmly. But your people don't have to die with you. Any Zephyrian ship that withdraws from this battle will be allowed to leave safely. What happened next shocked everyone, including Admiral Bailey. One by one, Zephyrian ships began breaking formation and moving away from the battle zone. First, a few cruisers, then destroyers, then even some of the larger battleships. Cowards! Vexitar screamed over the communication channel. You are all cowards. Stand and fight. But the Zephyrian crews had seen enough. They had watched their empire crumble, their friends disappear in the night, and their proud military tradition turn into a nightmare of fear and paranoia. They were not willing to die for one leader's pride. In the end, only 12 Zephyrian ships remained to fight alongside Vextar's flagship. The battle was brief and one-sided. Human ships used every tactic they had learned over 18 months of warfare, while the Zephyrians fought with the desperation of cornered animals. When it was over, Vextar's flagship was crippled and drifting in space. Admiral Bailey could have destroyed it completely, but he chose a different path. This is Admiral Bailey to the Zephyrian flagship. Your supreme predator is defeated. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated with honor. War Alpha Crixmores. Voice came over the radio. Admiral, Supreme Predator Vextar is dead. I am assuming command of what remains of our forces. We surrender. The formal surrender ceremony took place on the Zephyrian homeworld. Representatives from across the galaxy came to witness the end of the most powerful empire in known space. President Parker herself attended, along with leaders from dozens of other species who had suffered under Zephyrian rule. War Commander Thexel, now the highest-ranking Zephyrian military officer, signed the surrender documents with a shaking hand. The Zephyrian Empire officially recognizes the sovereignty of Earth and all human colonies, he read aloud. We renounce all claims to human territory and agree to pay reparations for the damages caused by this war. President Parker stood to address the assembled crowd. This war is over, but it doesn't have to define our future relationship. Humans and Zephyrians can coexist peacefully, but only if both species remember the lessons we've learned. She looked directly at Thexal. Your people learned that being strong doesn't make you invincible. Our people learned that survival sometimes requires becoming something you never wanted to be. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to adapt to its new reality. The Zephyrian Empire fragmented into smaller, independent worlds. Many of their former subjects declared independence and were recognized by Earth. Humanity emerged as one of the major powers in galactic politics, but it was a different kind of power than the galaxy had seen before. Humans didn't rule through fear like the Zephyrians had. Instead, they built alliances based on mutual respect and shared interests. Admiral Sullivan, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, established new protocols for dealing with hostile alien species. The lessons learned from fighting the Zephyrians would be passed down to future generations of human military officers. Remember, she told her staff, we didn't win this war because we were stronger or had better technology. We won because we were willing to adapt, to change our tactics, and to do whatever was necessary to survive. Dr. Lee became Earth's first ambassador to the Zephyrian worlds, working to build a lasting peace between the two species. It was slow work, as many Zephyrians still resented their defeat, but progress was being made. War Commander Thexal, now leader of the largest Zephyrian faction, often met with Dr. Lee to discuss the future. Your species taught us something important, he told her during one of their meetings. We thought we understood what it meant to be a predator, but we were wrong. True predators don't just hunt for food or territory, they hunt for survival. And when survival is at stake, there are no rules. Dr. Lee nodded. The question now is whether both our species can learn to be something other than predators. The galaxy has seen enough hunting. As the months turned into years, it became clear that the war had changed more than just the relationship between humans and Zephyrians. The entire galaxy had learned that strength alone was not enough to guarantee survival. Intelligence, adaptability, and the willingness to do whatever was necessary were just as important. And in the depths of space, human ships continued to patrol the borders of known civilization, watching for new threats and new opportunities. They were no longer the innocent explorers who had first encountered the Zephyrians. They had become something new, the guardians of a galaxy that was learning to respect the species that looked weak but fought like demons when threatened. The age of the